Welcome to Star Wars for 100 Days, the ultimate fan countdown leading up to the release of Star Wars The Force Awakens. It just so happens that we are officially 54 days away from the release of the epic 7th chapter in the Star Wars franchise. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's discussion, which is a continuing review of the Star Wars Clone Wars series, the animated show from 2003. Today we're going to take a look at a really epic chapter, which is the beginning of the Battle of Coruscant. This was such a great episode for a number of reasons. We got to see a ton of different Jedi being awesome. We also had this amazing subplot going on, which involves Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as they're on this snowy planet called Nelvon, as they're going to be forced to participate in this ancient ritual, which is supposedly a prophecy that someone with a ghost hand is going to save them. That someone is Anakin Skywalker. That is definitely my least favorite part about this chapter, but I'm still really intrigued by that story, because in many ways, this is like Anakin Skywalker's final trial. Everything that he's endured during the Clone Wars, according to Obi-Wan Kenobi, proves that he really is a Jedi Knight, but it's this final mission that he's going to have to go on to save all of these villagers that's truly going to prove himself. I especially love the introduction to their story when they're actually riding to the village. They're on these giant, what I'm going to call snow banthas, which basically banthas are those things that the Tusken Raiders or the Sand People would ride when they're in the desert, except these ones are actually made for this icy planet. And they even sort of make like the same noises. They don't look identical, but that's pretty much what I equate them to. When they actually do finally meet like this village elder, that's when they actually tell them that this guy's gonna have to go on this quest to save all of the people who've been disappearing and to basically bring their village back to the glory that it once was. What's also really weird is that he has to go through this weird ritual where they pick up these weird leech-like slugs, which they throw on Anakin's body, and they actually sort of crawl all over him, creating this geometric pattern with this green slime, which creates this really weird design on him. It's really ominous and sort of is kind of foreshadowing the fact that he is eventually going to become some sort of weird, freaky cyborg, because it sort of does like resemble like all of the inner workings of that suit. But without a doubt, the best thing about this chapter is just the beginnings of the Battle of Coruscant. Yoda, Mace Windu, Saesee Tiin, so many other cool Jedi, General Grievous showing up at the very end of the episode. There's too many moments to count from this one. But the introduction of the battle in particular is pretty fantastic when you see all of the Separatist forces just working their way into the inner workings of Coruscant, starting to fire in multiple directions, all of the clone troopers having to come in, and then of course, the Jedi themselves. First, let's talk about Mace Windu. He is just as awesome as he was in his own episode, even more so because of the crazy things he's doing in this one. What I really love is that we actually get to see more of Mace Windu's kung fu, of him just fighting hand-to-hand against the droids, destroying them, ripping all of their bolts and pieces out with the powers of the Force. And then there's this great scene where he takes control of one of those flying droids that can transform, and he actually cuts this hole in it, grabs all these wires out, and actually uses that to control this thing and fly around the battlefield, destroying things with his lightsabers and helping out the clone troopers. It's beautifully animated and has a tremendous amount of speed to it. I especially love the way he dismounts, where he actually just uses this thing to ram into a couple of droids, helping out Yoda as he's using the power of the Force to destroy all these droids and even these giant battleships. That's another cool thing about this chapter is Yoda. He really demonstrates how powerful he is with the Force by taking these giant dropships and ramming them into each other, simply just using the powers of the Force. My favorite scene, though, without a doubt from this episode, involves this Jedi who goes by the name of Saesee Tiin, who is this alien who has these giant horns coming out of his head. And when he actually puts on this really badass-looking power armor, which looks like a combination of Darth Vader and Boba Fett, that's truly when he comes into his own, because he's leading this entire battalion of clone troopers, which actually fly into space, and they actually drop down in space on top of this giant ship and work their ways inside so that they can destroy it and then exit and just move on to the next ship. The shot of them actually jumping from their ship with all of the clone troopers just flowing, using their jetpacks, and him just erupting with his lightsaber looks so freaking awesome. It's definitely my favorite image from this episode, and that's just one of the small moments. There are a ton of great action scenes from this episode. The episode ends with a group of Jedi arriving at Chancellor Palpatine's office, letting him know that a big war is going on and that they're going to have to leave, otherwise they might get hurt. When suddenly, General Grievous just bursts through the glass right there, and that ends this chapter. This one is so good, and it really also demonstrates that I wish that every single episode could have been a lot longer. Like, this was about a 12-minute piece of animation, but it felt like 30 minutes because there was just so many different things going on, and just a lot of really quick shots. Like, there's this one shot where they get the character of General Fordo, who is the red clone trooper. They actually have him return, and what's really cool is he's now using the Phase 2 clone trooper armor, so he looks a little closer to a traditional stormtrooper, but there's this great scene where suddenly they're being overwhelmed by these super battle droids, and the way they actually move the camera as he's constantly pulling out these different blasters and shooting them from multiple directions almost kind of gives it like this weird pseudo-documentary feel. Like you really feel like you're right there in the battle with him. It's not like shaky cam or anything, but it just makes it seem a little more realistic. And again, Fordo's awesome. The fact that he has all of these guns and he keeps just pulling them out from nowhere and just destroying all of these battle droids is fantastic. That combined with Yoda and Mace Windu just teaming up and fighting against everybody during this quick montage sequence is just pitch perfect and one of the greatest battles that I've seen from the entire series. And the shot of Saisi Tin and them actually going into space for the first time, when you see all of the ships coming into view, is just plain epic. It looks just as good as anything in the live-action versions of the film, and frankly, I still continue to like the Clone Wars series even more so than the actual movies themselves, the prequel movies. That being said, this chapter right here was fantastic. I loved it. But if you guys watched it, I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Did you have a favorite scene from this chapter, a favorite character who showed up, maybe a specific Jedi? What do you think of the story of Anakin going through his final trial? I really cannot wait to see how that's going to end, even though I already know, and I am going to talk about it in another chapter. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you like about this one? Did you like the Star Wars Clone Wars series? And what do you want to see from Star Wars The Force Awakens? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching my video. Make sure to like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.